I'm Jim Check. You're watching Now Media. With me for the second time, Dan Goy, Glen Rosa Residents Association. We're going to talk about the sun again. We're going to see if we can tap that sun, the biggest energy source on this planet. Well, that lights up this planet, I guess.
It does.
And you want more of it in West Kelowna.
Yeah. And, we've been on the Glen Rosa Residents Association has been on the drive for some time to promote solar power in West Kelowna, both for residents, commercials, and of course for the city itself. So I've done a little work since the last time I was here, and determined that the energy bill for the electrical energy bill for 2022 was in excess of $1 million. I think $1,080,000 to be exact. And at the time, I believe we had 13 city-owned facilities.
Right.
Since then, we've added the City Hall / library, the Rose Valley Treatment Plant, which is definitely a big energy sucker, and the West Kelowna Operations Center. We've got the fire hall that's being finished. I think it'll be finished this year or early next year. And then there's another community center, I believe, that's being added. And if we look at the current energy expenditure for electrical power today, perhaps next year, probably closer to $1.5 million.
And no solar planned on any of these, even the new builds?
Nothing.
And that's interesting because I know in Kelowna that they're looking at solar and all their new kind of like builds. I think Parkinson Rec and that's going to have some solar on it, from my understanding. Why do you think West Kelowna is not looking? You want to do this referendum? You want a solar power referendum in the next election? Yeah.
Well, I think the in context with the referendum, I mean, obviously we've pushed for this initiative. We've made our pitch at council. But given the overruns on some of the buildings and the report that was recently published, I think the community itself is probably a bit reluctant to engage in some of these expenditures and projects on a go-forward basis. So I thought, well, we've got an election next October, so this is a perfect opportunity to do a referendum. A simple question: do you support net metering on the facilities? Yes or no? But it also provides an opportunity for our community association and the other neighborhood associations, which are established throughout the city of West Kelowna, to do town halls, to get people out to the meetings, talk about solar power, talk about the advantages, talk about the costs, and really promote solar power as a source of power, renewable source of power in West Kelowna. Particularly, and as far as the costs go, there's lots of incentives. Typically, if we're looking at $1.5 million in electrical energy costs for the city of West Kelowna for its own facilities, we're probably roughly looking at about the same expenditure for actually doing the installation. And of course the benefits are immediate. As soon as you put the solar on, get it up and running, you're making money, you're deferring, you're no longer paying those energy costs. In addition to that, there's got to be some work done on what exactly is available for incentives. We all know about the BC Hydro incentive and some of the zero financing by the feds. But I mean, if we just look at Coldstream Solar, which has just been announced about 3 weeks ago, a $2.1 million project, and BC Hydro has contributed $875,000. That's pretty significant. And I would think that if the city of West Kelowna actually pursued a program where they go with net metering across all their facilities, that would attract a lot of attention and incentives from both the provincial and federal government and other funding.
To be fair to the city of West Kelowna, current structures may not have roofs in place to support solar panels, because that's typically where you're going to put it up. But the new structures, the new builds, it would be easier to build it into as you're building the new structures to have support for solar. Lots of times people think of flat roof. Flat roofs obviously are harder to do than roofs that are kind of like pitched roofs, right, for solar energy. Have you looked into like how much have you guys, do you have anybody that's costed out some of the solar that would be available for some of the 13 properties in West Kelowna?
Well, certainly we had IPS did they did a bid on a 100 kilowatt system and a 10 kilowatt system for the city of for the city building, the city hall.
Like a 10 kilowatt system is fairly small.
Yeah, it's fairly small.
Residential.
But the 100 kilowatt would, and I presented that to council in a quote. The IPS gave me the quote, and I mean, obviously, if this is approved and embraced by the city of West Kelowna, you would start with the new buildings and newer buildings,
right?
And then on a go forward basis, you would look at the when the roofs are done, right, replaced at the older buildings. That's when the timing would be to install the solar. I would think that given its typical solar is about 2 pounds per square foot, that pretty much any roof will hold the 2 pounds per square foot.
The bigger problem with typically commercial is like a flat roof type thing, and definitely you have to build some structure because you don't want panels flat. You want panels on a slope, and so lots of times that involves building a structure, and then that involves some engineering and stuff like that. And then also where the building faces and stuff like that. But West Kelowna typically would be great for solar because of it being on the west side, right, and having that especially if the building is pointed the right way, you would have that exposure. Net metering though as well is kind of like built into all solar, right? So and that's why like BC Hydro and Fortis and that like it, because it allows them not to build as big a system, because then they can pull from those panels. Sometimes like it's happening in Texas right now, where they actually will pull from batteries, like on peak demand. Instead of having peaker plants, they actually pull from, like if you have a solar array that has a battery backup, they can actually pull from those systems as opposed to pushing into them, right, when they have like peak usage.
And if you look at a day like today, where it's going to be hitting 35 degrees Celsius, your solar power is pounding out the electricity during the daytime when you need it for air conditioning. For sure. And the cost benefits of not having to upgrade the grid because you've got all this solar power available, is tremendous actually.
There's a lot of work being done in, like I say, in Texas right now on that, and where I'm obviously like they have Tesla down there, one of the companies operating that is big in solar. Elon believes that the sun is the best source of energy on this planet. Well, that feeds this planet, I guess it's on this planet. But it's no different than firefighting, where you see helicopters will go and take out of pools when they're taking water, when they need water. And it's the same thing for hydro. And that you think of electricity as like big trunk lines, and then they feed down to when they get to your house, thin little lines, right? So to build out that infrastructure, they can pull from those small lines, because obviously you can't build a big plant in your backyard because you just don't have a transmission line to push that energy back. But small lines will actually help in peak periods, right, where they can actually, especially if they're going to pull out of batteries, right? And a lot of people will talk about EVs as EVs will crush the system. But if you look at it another way, EVs are just batteries. And if they're plugged in all the time when they're not being used, they're actually a source of energy as opposed to a usage of energy too. And they can pull in off-peak times, they can pull at night when they're charging, and in the daytime, they can actually add energy into the system. I don't want to get too far down that road, but solar makes a lot of sense. And to me, I guess the puzzle is, why is West Kelowna not really looking at it, not being serious about it?
Well, I think
that's the question.
I know. I appreciate that.
Is the real question, right?
Yeah, I think obviously there's been the status quo for years in the city of West Kelowna of not being that. Have that not being on their radar. I think that is changing, and as you see more commercial operators and more neighborhoods and more houses going with solar, I think the interest will increase. We're doing our best to try to increase the interest and appetite for solar power, particularly where it comes into city facilities where we can actually save the community money by not generating. We don't have to generate all this cash to pay an electrical bill. We can actually just generate electricity what we have. Just talking about EVs just for a sec. getting off topic here. I've just recently learned that, of course, one of the reasons that people used to not support EVs was the amount of power it would take, right? As you just mentioned. Well, I've also just learned that AI takes twice as much power.
Yeah, AI is an eater, like power.
Right. But that doesn't seem to be an issue.
EVs can actually balance the system if you look at it from a different way. Because, like, if you look at, like, Site C Dam, electricity is different than gasoline. It doesn't flow like that, right? So it's a draw system, right? So then as you draw energy, it takes more, right? But obviously at night, there's a lot less draw. But if the EVs are plugged in at night, they will draw the excess energy so they can have more balanced load, and they will charge up. And if they're plugged in the daytime, say they're at work or wherever, then they can actually add almost like a peaker plant, where the system can actually pull from them, right? Because that's how the electrical system, like, to get a basic understanding of electricity, that people will see that as not just like they look at EVs as a net draw. That's all they see them as, a net draw, right? And they say, well, we can't do all that, but in the other sense, it actually could balance the system. And it's just, I think it's an education thing, right? And I think even for the city of West Kelowna, I know you're adding a referendum here. I think they need to do, I think for them, maybe a test pilot in one of their new buildings, and then pilot it and then see what happens. Because that's what's happening in Kelowna. I think the first step for the city of West Kelowna was to do a pilot in one of their new facilities. Like, there's going to be some capital outlay, obviously, but there's some incentives, just like Coldstream. Take a look at that. I guess my question to you then, for the Glen Rosa Resident Association, what is your penetration, say, in Glen Rosa for, and they're calling you. They're saying you're saying too much, right? That's okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. No problem. It's live. That's the way it works, right? And then, so what is your penetration, you say, in Glen Rosa Resident Association and the other associations? You've been in contact with other associations in getting solar installed there. And I think we talked last time, one of the impediments, obviously, is the West Kelowna, city of West Kelowna has a building permits required, where Summerland doesn't, Peachland doesn't, and the city of Kelowna doesn't.
Certainly, I've been continuing to pursue that. Recently, we had a meeting with staff, and that included representatives from one of the solar companies. And originally, we were told that it was the building code that required that the building permit.
Building code is a BC building
code. Building code, and that required that that a permit be taken. And of course, we got into the meeting. I said, well, how come you talk about the city of West Kelowna, of Kelowna. The city of Kelowna has the same building code.
The city BC, I think.
It's the BC building code,
BC, right?
And they don't require building permits. Turns out, after a little more investigation and a little bit of feedback, that it doesn't appear to be the BC building code that requires the building permit for solar installation. It's a bylaw, City of West Kelowna bylaw, which talks about the alteration of the roof, which infers something to do with trusses in the building code. Well, adding solar panels doesn't alter the roof structure. What it does do is it adds a load to it. And when you look at the building code, which talks about loads, they're talking about tiles, they're talking about cement, they're talking about really heavy things. They're not talking about 2 pounds per square foot, right?
Well, the common sense thing is, like, it's a BC building code. City of West Kelowna is in BC, as is Kelowna, as is Summerland,
correct,
as is Peachland.
As is Vernon.
So it's their interpretation and then their addition of another bylaw. That's probably
right.
That is the issue.
And so what it appears to me is that the City of West Kelowna staff has determined to interpret their bylaw to requiring permits, not per se because of a safety issue, but because of a cash generation initiative.
Has the Glen Rosa Resident Association thought about suing the City of West Kelowna?
No.
No?
We're a volunteer organization with no fees, so we have no money.
I'm just saying, you're going to need to challenge that. If you want to make a change in that, you're going to need to challenge it in some way, shape, or form, or get the resident associations all to say, why are we paying this? And the people across the lake aren't paying it. It makes sense. I mean, I did reach out to some city councilors in there, and they believed that it was fair to have it as part of the building permit, right? So
what of course, there's two parts to the building permit. right? There's the application fee, which is a standard, used to be $150. Maybe it's gone up, maybe it hasn't. And then, of course, there's the 1.14% of gross, which in itself obviously is to generate cash. The bigger the plant, the bigger the expense, the bigger the income. Of course, once they've, from this, again, this is from my perspective, once they've issued the permits, there's now a liability issue, right? You've issued a permit.
And all kinds
right?
of things,
And to offset that, what they've done is they've required a seal from an engineer, which in my case was $800. Right, so it was $400 for the permit process.
Because they want to push that liability
and
on somebody else,
right? They want to remove the liability. But of course,
create the liability and then remove the liability. And around we go.
But of course, the beneficiary of the liability being removed is the city.
Oh, the beneficiary is the engineer,
right? and
who
of
just
course,
goes like this. That's a
and I pay for it. In the meeting process with the city of West Kelowna, I asked them, well, aren't there some prints? Aren't there some prints in the archives about these things? And basically, they don't exist. And yet, when I look at the engineer's form that he completed, he says he inspected the prints. I don't know how that happened.
He inspected the $800.
Nobody's been.
He inspected the $800.
What he did is he completed the form and collected the $800.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
There are no prints, and nobody's been to the house to take any pictures. I think they've signed off on seismic stuff too, right?
Well, like I said, what I would suggest to you is you get the other associations together, and you say,
I agree.
This is unfair, unjust, and it doesn't make any sense. And if you're talking about BC Building Code, obviously the City of Kelowna is in the same province.
So just turning for a second to the City of Kelowna, which does not require permits, liability lies with the homeowner, the contractor, and the insurance company. That's where it belongs. Right.
You think so?
Well, right. I guess the City of Kelowna charges a lot more for DCCs, and it doesn't particularly need that money. Plus to some degree, I guess they're thinking
the DCCs
solar power is a good thing for the community.
DCCs are said to fund, like the infrastructure, and you shouldn't be making it up on, like add-ons and stuff like that, right?
But I do understand the need for the city to collect. They've got fees, they got permit fees, they got license fees, they've got all sorts of fees and charges that they need to collect and provide services. I understand that. But when you've got the federal and provincial government doing their best to incentivize this renewable resource, surely the city of West Kelowna can come on board. And
Why are you so driven by solar, and especially for the city properties? I understand for yourself, like as a homeowner in the Glen Rosner Resident Association, but then why the push for commercial properties, especially city properties?
Well, particularly for city properties, because those are taxpayer dollars that pay for the electrical costs. And there's, to me, an obvious opportunity for us to take that money, that potential $1.5 million per year, and put that into other services that are required, whether it be sidewalks, whether it be whether it be community buildings, whether it be infrastructure, whatever it is.
How many commercial properties in West Kelowna are putting solar on right now? Do you know of?
Well,
there's huge incentives for commercial.
Oh, there is.
It's almost like if you have a commercial property and your roof is in sound shape, like you're missing the boat if you don't take a look at solar.
Absolutely.
And I can go through with people. It's especially if you have your properties facing the right way, and the accelerated depreciation that you get. You know what I mean? Like from CRA, you get accelerated depreciation. Plus, there's incentives and all this stuff. And you guys you're Fortis on that side.
BC Hydro.
BC Hydro has for homeowners a $5,000.
They do.
Grant for solar and a $5,000 grant for battery.
Yeah.
Right, so it's $10,000, and a typical system like a 10 kilowatt system is $20,000 to $25,000.
$20,000 to $25,000.
That's without the battery, and if you add battery, you're probably looking at another, $5,000 to $10,000 depending on what you do. Or you can buy yourself a Cybertruck and you can plug that in, and it's got the battery built right in. The battery doesn't leave, because those things, I think some F-150 Lightnings also do that too, where they can actually send power both ways and they become battery backup for your system. I think you can run a house on an F-150 Lightning or Cybertruck for a week almost, right?
Wow, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, you can. So there you go. You just have to spend about $100,000 on a truck.
I mean, as far as local projects go, I haven't actually seen this in writing yet, but my understanding is that Gorman's Mill, which is in Glen Rosa, is putting a 100-watt kilowatt system, solar system, building that, and Byland's Nursery is putting a 25 kilowatt system on, and then they're going to see how that goes and look at more. So, how big
is your system you have at home?
Right now, it's 10 kilowatts.
Yeah, so that 10 kilowatts that's what I have at home too. The 10 kilowatts is basically what like an average home kind of use in a year. And then again, with net metering, British Columbia has it. So that's all British Columbia. So net metering means like when you produce in excess, like during a hot day when you don't have anything going on, you're pushing power into the system. So BC Hydro or Fortis is taking that energy and then giving you credits back. And then in the wintertime, when you come home late at night and the solar's not working because it's nighttime, you pull back from the system, right? You pull.
Yeah, I mean, you're making. I mean, I'm making the credits during the summer, and then I'm using from those credits in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And it's interesting if you go to the various solar companies, and there's I think half a dozen just in West Kelowna. But you just look across the Okanagan, they pop up every day, and you start to see where they've built solar. I mean, there's hundreds of projects across British Columbia.
Big ones,
that are utilizing solar, and I got to say, here in the sunny Okanagan Valley, we're blessed.
Yeah, so like if you look at if you just use ChatGPT or anything, you'll see that. Best places for solar in Canada will be the Alberta, like in the southern part of Alberta.
And Saskatchewan.
Yeah, in the flat. And then the Okanagan is right up there in that list there. And so we are in that kind of like that Sun Belt thing. And Tony Seba from Rethink X will tell you that solar works everywhere, including Alaska, and it's just about batteries. So Alaska obviously needs more battery. And then more solar panels, but you can build systems anywhere almost. Well, obviously, if you're in Saudi Arabia, like solar is just like dirt cheap, and the price of solar and panels have come down dramatically. Like solar is one of the cheapest forms of energy right now.
It is,
and it usually comes up every day.
It does.
It usually comes up every day, and if it doesn't show up,
we're all in trouble.
We're in trouble, right?
We're in trouble.
You're not worried about your solar bill anymore. If the sun doesn't show up tomorrow, you shouldn't have to worry about your solar bill.
That's right.
Not for long anyway.
Not for long, exactly.
So it is the most renewable resource or energy form out there. And I can't remember, Elon will tell you, I can't remember how many quadrillion gigawatts that are available there. I think we use like very, very little of what's available in solar right now. There's talks about, just talking about futurists, of putting solar arrays in space and then beaming that energy to Earth, right? Because then it's not, the solar energy isn't interfered with our atmosphere and a whole bunch of other things, right? So lots of exciting stuff. You would think that the city of West Kelowna, I'm sure some of the councillors are going to watch this, and you would think that you would look at a pilot project and see where it goes. And
I am quite confident that there's members of council that are very supportive of this initiative.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that they should look at, though, is question why the surrounding communities don't have a building permit, so that more people in Glen Rosa, because I know that's an impediment, right? Like when people think, okay, well, that's another, when all is said and done, another $1,100, $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 added to an installation, and when people are juggling, the Canadian economy the way it is right now, people are $200 from making their obligations, so it makes a difference, right? So, and if we want more renewable energy, and I know that the energy companies want it, like Fortis and BC Hydro would rather have that than have to build another site.
Well, it takes pressure off their grid.
They don't have to build another site C, or
That's right.
Those are big costs and years to build and stuff like that. So, especially if you look. Not on this side of the building, when we look out here behind me in the live shot, You don't see a lot of flat commercial roofs, but if you go to the other side here and you look east, it's almost all flat roofs that you could put in some pitches, and you could gather a lot of energy off of basically wasted rooftops.
Exactly.
Right? You know what I mean? It's not taking away green space, it's just rooftops.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tap the sun. Seems pretty simple, no? How long have you had solar?
So we put our solar in 2023,
Yeah.
and we added a couple of panels last March.
There you go. And you got a 10 kilowatt system, and you're running you got a couple electric EVs, or you got one or two?
I got several.
Several, there you go.
Several fridges.
You got gas station right in the sky there. You got your gas station.
2 electric bikes, 1 electric car.
Bikes. So there you go. So you're electrified, you're energized.
I am.
You're energized to lead this charge too. And I like the Fire Smart hat too. My son-in-law does that stuff too. He works and he does
That's our next
stuff, right?
priority. We have an AGM coming up on September the 18th at the Morningstar Bible Camp. We're going to have John Martin and Jason Brolin, Fire Chief and Fire Smart Rep, there as guest speakers. We've got our 60th GRA or 50th GRA anniversary next year in 2026, and we're going to make it a Fire Smart event. And we're hoping for a good turnout, and hopefully we'll have some solar representatives there as well.
The only way to get energy independence, and I'll say this to the people watching, the only way to get energy independence, you can't build a gas plant in your backyard.
No.
You can't drill for oil. You can't do all those things. The only way to get energy independence is put a solar array on your roof, and then you put a battery backup in there, and then you drive an EV, and then 90% of your energy for your energy costs for your home and your EV will come from the sun.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you don't have to, if you put a battery system in right now, just so people understand net metering, if you just use net metering and no battery, if the power goes out, your solar array doesn't help you.
Correct.
It's dead too, right? So the only way to get like backup through your solar array is through a battery
storage
right?
system.
So you have to have that. And again, this thing, if you go look in Texas, they're doing this right now. It's a pilot program that's happening right now. So they're actually having people sign up, and they're going to pay these people for their power instead of running peaker plants, which typically run on coal or LNG or whatever. Instead of running peaker plants in peak times, they're going to pull from those people that sign up from, you know what I mean? Like at 4 o'clock, it's peak time. People come home from work, fire up the dryer, fire up the stove, fire up the oven, fire up all those electrical needs. And that's peak time, right? So then, the system needs to pull energy from somewhere. So what it does is it pulls the peaker plant online, and those peaker plants fire up, and then they use LNG or coal or whatever they use. And instead of that, they're going to be pulling from guys' houses like yourself, and they can just pull from there, and they don't have to fire up that peaker plant.
Well, I was thinking about a wind tower, but I think it would take up the room that the pool's in right now.
Yeah, like wind there's a lot of negativity on wind in certain areas of the world right now. They're kind of like, they're having some issues with some wind stuff. And I know that BC is talking about wind power, but solar doesn't require this monstrosity in the sky. One of the things that I have looked at in wind, just to go off topic, is ridge caps. Because you got a roof that's sloped like this, and when the wind hits it, it actually accelerates to get up over the roof. And then so they got these ridge cap turbines that aren't these monstrosities, and then you can add some balancing power there, because you can generate a little power at night, because typically in the Okanagan winds are windy at night, right? So
not much during the day, but lots at night. Yeah.
You're going to find all your energy solutions here on Now Media, and from guys like Dan Going, right? So I think it actually pays for you to take a look at solar, and I would recommend it to get any solar company like you say. There's I don't know how many in the Okanagan now, 10, 11, 12.
Probably a dozen anyway. Yeah.
Get a couple quotes, and then see, because a 10 kilowatt system should cost you around $20,000 and $25,000, and they should be able to give you all the costing. And I think that federal loan is expired.
Still available from CA? No, I don't think it is. What is expired federally, I believe, is the grant.
Yeah, the grant, but I thought they were putting an end to the loan too, right? Anyway, check it. Greener Homes program, you can go check it out. The city of Kelowna actually runs an assessment that you can do for free too. I did the interview with former Kelowna Rockin', Chris Ray.
Oh yeah.
So you can go find that on our Now Media channel. They'll do that for free, and I don't know if they'll do it for you in West Kelowna or not, but they'll come and look at your house, and they'll look at your insulation, your windows. Lots of the energy loss in a home is through windows and doors and stuff.
Yeah, we had to go through that
Installation,
before we got
yeah,
approved.
so they do that. They do that assessment of your home, right? So, but it just makes dollars and cents.
It does. Yeah.
And if you're watching, just it doesn't hurt to get a free quote.
Exactly.
And then EVs. We'll just touch on this real quick for EVs. You've been driving now for how long?
2022. We got it in around September the 1st, 2022.
How much maintenance on an EV?
Almost none.
Almost none. There you go. I've been driving one for 2 years too. 0.
I mean, we take it in once a year and they look at it.
Well, I even have to take mine in to look at it. The Tesla, they look at it. They look at it through. They look it through the app, and they're just like, it looks good to me.
But anyway,
so 0. You put some washer fluid in every now and then.
I did. In fact, I put some in the other day.
There you go.
Yeah.
No oil changes. No oil to change.
And the brakes last forever.
Yeah, right. That's for sure.
Because you got the regen, right?
Regen
on the brakes. So.
There you go. So like that, I've heard people getting 1 million miles on a set of brakes. Ever heard of that in a gas car?
No.
You just watch the people coming down from Glen Rosa. Like you see that red lights all the time, right? Like you see the brake lights going.
Well, we this morning we left with 95 kilometers on the battery.
Yeah.
And when we got here, we had 90.
Yeah. There you go.
And typically to go across Kelowna, we gain 1 or 2 kilometers.
And just
because of stop and go traffic.
For the negative people out there on the EVs, I've had one for 2 years and no fires yet. How about you? Any fires yet?
No fires.
No fires, and I go to Calgary and Vancouver all the time. So and in 45 below. I don't know.
Although there were a couple of fires started recently in West Kelowna by gas-powered vehicles.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah. You watch on the connector, lots of fires on the connector. Usually big trucks. The brakes heated up. Right. So anyway, as usual, it's great having you here. And if you want to come in more, we talk about energy all day long. I think it behooves them to have a look and tap the power that every morning when you wake up, it shows up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every morning when you wake up, it shows up. Hopefully, right? Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Dan.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. And thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.